Rehabilitation and Special Education Program. Say that 3 times fast. Before we get to our amazing India itinerary, just a few little bit of housekeeping. Everyone on the webinar today is muted. That does not mean we don't want your questions. We absolutely do. This is a conversation between the three of us today, and we want your input. We want your questions. So please feel free to click on that chat box at the bottom or the Q&A box at the bottom as well to open that chat and that Q&A and put your questions in there. We'll try and answer them as we go through the conversation, but we will have time at the end to answer them if we don't get to them through the conversation. So if you ask a question, stick around. It's going to be answered. Secondly, this webinar is being recorded. So if you do have to step away, if you have a traveling companion that you usually travel with that can't make it this evening, we will be sending out the recording so you can share it with them as well. So without further ado, let's get into our presentation today on the India journey. I'm going to try it again. Interdisciplinary Rehabilitation and Special Education Journey to India, starting on October 5th to the 13th. Tonight I am co-hosted by two friends. Dr. Dolores Battle is our journey host. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Dr. Dolores. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm so happy to have this webinar today as we're planning this trip to India. India has always been on my bucket list. As you'll see later, I've been to 45 countries, but never been to India. And there's always something to learn and always new people to connect with. So as we get further, we'll talk a little bit more about my history with Nanda and some of the wonderful things that we're going to do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for I'm looking forward to this amazing conversation and learning all about your journeys around the world and your excitement for India. On our journey today, I'm also joined by Nicola, my friend and my colleague from Nanda Journeys, our founder and owner. Thanks for joining me, Nicola, for another great conversation about a destination around the world.
Always my favorite. And India, I think I've been to India 6 or 7 times, and you will hear throughout the course of our time together this evening why it resonates with me as one of my favorites.
Awesome. So to get to the agenda real quick, we're going to start a little bit about Nanda Journeys and the Nanda Journeys way, talking a little bit about, for those that aren't familiar, we see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of familiar names on the list today. We see a lot of new names. So talking a little bit about Nanda Journeys and why experiencing India with Nanda is such a unique experience. We'll dive into the journey, talking about some of the day-to-day experiences. We'll end with some pricing and registrations, along with some add-on options, upgrading your airfare, getting airfare from around the country. And then we'll get to any questions that we didn't get to throughout our conversation. So we're excited for this amazing agenda, this amazing conversation. Before we get into India, Nicola, tell us a little bit about Nanda Journeys, kind of what makes it so special and unique, and why India is one of those destinations that just makes Nanda Journeys such a special experience.
Yeah, well, first, I'm really excited to have everybody. Welcome to the Nanda family. For those of you that are coming back, welcome back. For those of you that are new, whether you traveled with us before or not, you are now part of the Nanda family, and I warmly welcome you. And Nanda is actually a Sanskrit word that means joy and happiness, because India just so inspired me and was very integral in my starting of the company. When People to People closed in 2015, many of you here tonight may be familiar with People to People ambassador programs. That's how Dolores and I first met. We worked together there, and they ceased operations in 2015. But both of us believe wholeheartedly in these programs and the life-changing impacts that they have, that I decided to start Nanda Journeys. So here we are, and we have a wonderful leadership team, and Dolores said yes to that journey. And together we've curated what has now become known as the Nanda Way. And this is very organic. This was not a marketing strategy that Michael, myself, or any one of the other team came up with. You, the travelers, our leaders, our guides in country and the communities we visit, they constantly kept saying they love the Nanda Way. And I think I can credit Daniel in Peru, Dolores, to really anchoring in on the Nanda Way. But to us, it's what we do. We approach everything with integrity and authenticity. Even this conversation tonight, we started out with a bump, but that's real life. That's okay. We want to present as being real human beings with real feelings and with real integrity. So we do our very best to design programs that are really socially responsible, and we'll talk about that as we talk through the India itinerary. It resonates so much in India because there is a need for us to engage and understand and learn and support. And whilst we want to introduce you to the wonderful country that's India, we want to do it in a way that's very special, very immersive, and very connected to the local people. And Dolores, I think that's why you keep coming back, right? Because of the people stuff.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about the people. It really is all about connecting with people.
Yeah. So this is me in India, again, leaning into our authenticity. All of the pictures you'll see through tonight's presentation are from delegations that have traveled with Nanda Journeys to India. And this is me with a young girl in one of the schools that you'll visit, actually, in Bharatapur. And all of our programs are fully inclusive. We don't want you to have to worry about anything. The airfare is included. You have an expert national guide. Some of my favorite guides in the whole world are in India, and one of them will join you from airport to airport. So they'll be with you the whole way. You're staying in 4 and 5-star accommodations. So it's a nice, easy way. Some people concerned about India in particular, about what is the standard of my accommodation going to be like. You're going to be in wonderful hotels that we've used over and over again with our friends in India, and local experts, right? So that's the most important thing, is Dolores is an expert in this field. So from a professional learning objectives, outcomes, and impact, Dolores was integral in designing this journey with us. It's all part of the journey together. So we have private transportation. You're always going to be in a private coach that is owned by our worldwide partner. So we are very confident in their servicing of the vehicles. They age them out at a really young age and get new vehicles, and they have their own drivers. So their drivers are employed full time. So these are the little differences that we like to share with you, especially in India. It's a destination that we know requires a little bit more consideration. Not everybody's familiar with it. So we consider ourselves the experts, and we invite you to join us on this journey. You turn up and enjoy. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, I love these 2 slides because it shows there's so much that makes a Nanda Journeys unique and amazing and engaging, brings you closer to the community, closer to the culture, but still keeps you comfortable, which I love about Nanda Journeys. But there's nothing I love about Nanda Journeys more than our journey hosts, and this itinerary is no exception. We have an amazing journey host with Dr. Dolores Battle. Tell us a little bit about Dr. Dolores and how what she brings to this journey, and why this is such an amazing opportunity to travel with a professional.
I am so excited about this journey to India. As the slide shows, I'm a professor emeritus from speech language pathology at Buffalo State University now. It's called university now. I'm former president of both ASHA and the ILP, and I will tell you how they came together. Okay, when I was very active in ASHA, I was chair of the language committee at the time. This was in the early 1990s. And the project got involved with helping developing countries develop standards for developing language standards. So as president, as a chair of the Standards Council and that Language Development Committee, I went to England to help with an IALP committee that was developing standards for developing countries in language. And it was in that experience that got me involved with the IALP, which, if you don't know, that's the International Association of Logopedics and Phoniatrics, which has been renamed the International Association of Speech Language Pathology and Audiology. By working with the ILP, they have members in 55 different countries. And by working with the ILP, I became aware of the variety of ways, the diversity in ways this profession was practiced around the world, and the disparity in some communities where people didn't have any services at all, and as opposed to such as the United States or Canada, where there are lots of services. The differences in training, the differences in parents' perception, the differences in what is considered a taboo and cultural taboos, and what people believe were the cause of disorders or not. So by working with the ILP, I eventually became the president of ILP and on their board for 16 years, and traveled to many countries all around the world, understanding the profession. I remember one of my earlier trips with Nanda, which was then the people to people, and I always refer to them as the people to people people, because they're the Chinese
That's
people,
it.
the people to people.
Yeah.
My early trips was to China, and we went to Beijing, and we went all the way out. But they always put the professional together with the cultural. So we went out to way out in China, way out to where those warriors were, and we went to a school where
Xi'an.
children were there for their special education, but those children came from hundreds of miles away because there weren't services in the very rural parts of China. And I remember getting on the bus after we visited the school, and two parents got on the bus with two children. One child had been to Beijing and had a hearing test there. His audiogram had, well, just couldn't go any lower. He had virtually no hearing, but he was a delightful little boy. And but because they lived in rural China, there was no way they were going to get services for them. And there was another little boy who was 10 who had no services from his community either. He was not even walking. So the disparity in the services. I remember the psychologist at that point asking us if any of our delegation could come back and help them understand what to do with these things that they were referring to as autistic children, and they didn't know what it was at the point. They new term for them. So when you travel around the world, you see so many different ways of people looking at the profession. Part of the work with the ILP, I also was doing some work with a project called Hearing Aids and Services for Developing Countries. And one of the countries that they were working with, this was a project working out of Geneva, World Health Organization, was developing hearing aids for people in India. Well, there were so many people who had no hearing in India, no hearing aids, and one of the hearing aid companies was willing to donate the hearing aids, which is wonderful. We were all excited about it, but there was a catch. They were not going to donate the batteries. So it would have been a problem for these people with these donated hearing aids to service, but they were trying to develop solar batteries. So you begin to see that there's such disparity. When we went to South Africa, there was another situation where there was a lot of disparity around hearing. We went to a school for the hearing impaired in Johannesburg. No, it was Cape Town. And the children in that school were wearing they had cochlear implants, which was wonderful. Oh my gosh, this is terrific. Except when the children went home to their villages, there was no power for them to charge the batteries.
Yeah.
To another school where they were testing hearing. Now this school, it was in one of the townships. They were testing hearing. This school had dirt floors. They had no power, but they were testing the hearing with these children. And how were they doing that? Well, the teacher had a cell phone, and she was doing the raise your hand if you hear the thing, and the cell phone was transmitting the children's response to Peoria, which was hundreds of miles away, but that's how they were coping with with the availability of services.
It's amazing. And I think it's just incredible what you've brought in, your career and since the 1990s. And what I love about what you do, Dolores, is integrate everybody. So you were talking about, the psychiatrist, and you were talking about, is there a need for other rehab services, and blending like OT, PT, all of the people that are involved, mental health specialists. The nice thing about how you travel and how you operate professionally is that collaborative approach. And I think that leans into how we develop the program and why the career enrichment element is critical to how we develop these journeys.
And the connections you make are long lasting. I was telling Nicole just a while ago, I was having a conversation with a young lady at a book club here, and I'm in Buffalo, in case you don't know, I'm in Buffalo. She was telling me that her friend had adopted a young man who was from Peru, and he had gone back to Peru is working in a school way outside of Lima, and he was trying to hook up some special services for these children in the school, but he didn't know quite how to hook them up.
Mm-hmm.
I said, when I went to Peru, and I still maintain a connection with one of the gals at the university in Lima, where we did spend some time. I reconnected with her. She connected with the young man in this place in Lima, and they were able, working together, to provide the services for these children just because of that connection that we
Yeah.
established and actually maintained over these years. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the nice things about traveling with Nanda and traveling. They're very, there's very closeness. You get close to the profession, you get to know the people, you get to know what their differences are, what's similar, and how you can help over
Mm-hmm.
the long term. And it's the long termness that seems to make a big difference. Why it's a little bit different from going hanging out in a resort. You really get to
Yeah.
know people.
That's so true. And the peer engagement starts right from the first day. And it's not just the peer engagement with the international folks, it's peer engagement with people from across the United States. And we've lost track of the number of initiatives that have been born, especially out of your delegations. There's something really special about the people that gravitate towards you and your journeys. I know that there has been exchanges in India where there have been people going back to help,
Mhm.
and Peru, I know there were so many initiatives born out of these connections, and I so appreciate you. I wish we knew the true extent of the impact that you've had and your delegates have had, but I can't emphasize enough that the true beauty in these programs is the impact and transformative power for people that are traveling, but really the people you're visiting. The
Well,
impact is so special.
the additional thing is that in several of the trips we've made have resulted in the delegates collaborating with the professionals where they were to have
Hmm.
joint publications so
It's
that the
awesome. Yeah.
word has spread not just to us, but to people that read the publications. That happened with Cuba, that happened with South Africa, it happened
Hmm.
with Peru as well. So there have been some publications that have been jointly prepared, or at least even if not prepared, but at least mentored by the people that have worked together. So there's a
That's
long lasting
awesome.
result.
And there's lots of benefits to you in your career, whether you're starting in your mid career or you're in your mature career. There's always something to be learned about how you can modify your delivery, your service, or have impact in your own community. So bringing that back to your school, your community, or your healthcare practice, I think is really important.
Well, as long as we in this country are having families in our country from all over the world,
Hmm.
understand what they have left behind and what they understand about a disability and what they understand about the services that we can provide. If you say a person has a speech impairment, well, what does that mean to someone
Yeah.
who doesn't know what that means? If someone says you have a language disorder, well, what does that mean when you've come from a place where that term isn't even used?
Yep.
So
So
understanding
true.
what background is all about really helps.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you for that. And I know we want to share with everybody the itinerary, which is I know what you're waiting for. So I think we've talked about the impact, Michael, and I so appreciate Dolores telling those stories because that's important to us, right? The impact is it's part of our ethos. It's part of why
Mhm.
we turn up every day to do what we do.
Absolutely. Like we like to say, we take our memories, but we leave our footprints, which is important.
Hmm.
Leaving
Hmm.
an impact is so important. And on this journey, let's get into the itinerary. Again, departing October 5th, returning back on October 13th later this year. This 10 days, 7 nights itinerary features 14 meals. On day one, we depart for India. Once we get to Delhi, we spend 3 amazing evenings in Delhi, experiencing the culture, having some professional engagement. After that, we travel down to Jaipur, where we spend 3 more evenings in Jaipur before heading over east to Agra, spending one evening in Agra before heading back up to Delhi, where we'll be flying home on an overnight flight, arriving back in the United States a couple of days later. So there's a little bit of travel time, but India is one of those destinations that has such an amazing culture, the journey, the travel time is so worth it. This is one of your heart destinations, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about the reasons why you love India. Our first night is an overnight flight, but we arrive in Delhi and we get right into the culture. Tell us a little bit about the culture, Nicola, in India and why you love it so much.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the map, and if while I'm talking, if you don't mind just popping back on the map a little bit, but
Yeah.
for people that have heard about India and heard about, people that are offering you an opportunity to travel to India, it's called the Golden Triangle, right? This particular itinerary, but I like to think of Nanda Journeys as going off the beaten path, and this map so beautifully demonstrates how we go off the beaten path. So typically you would go to Delhi, Jaipur, Agra, and that creates a beautiful triangle. It does between those points. But we like to go in a little bit. So in Bharatapur, which we'll talk about, we like to take you to the very local places, and that's why I love this particular itinerary. So in Delhi, huge city, huge population, but we're going to introduce you to Delhi, the two sides of Delhi, right? There is the old Delhi with 5,000 plus years of history, and it's old buildings and it's narrow streets with the rickshaws and so busy. And then you have the new Delhi, where the new buildings that, from the early 1900s were built. You'll get a flavor for both. So you'll spend enough time in Delhi to culturally immerse yourself, but also spend some professional time. And we'll talk about that in a little moment. But you'll explore Mahatma Gandhi's, history and legacy. The rickshaw ride is incredible. I am so very fortunate to have done everything that we have planned for you here. And I don't know, it's so difficult to describe that you're navigating India in a very controlled manner that is absolute chaos, right? So there's no other way to describe it. You guys have seen it. You've seen the TV programs, you've seen it works, right? There are no lanes on the highway, but it works. People are just seamlessly interacting. So the history as well, and the temples. One of my favorite places in Delhi is actually Humayun's temple. It's kind of the lesser known version of the Temple of Love. There are so many temples built for the Mughal emperors and their wives, for when they pass on into the next world. These places are stunning. The architecture, the grounds, the gardens. So it's kind of this beautiful tranquility in the middle of the city of Delhi. So it's not going to be chaos all the time. There are tranquil moments where you can anchor yourself and really appreciate your beautiful surroundings. So we'll give you a really good flavor of what Delhi's all about.
Amazing. I mean, so Nanda is kind of the method to the madness in Delhi, I guess.
Yes, it's true.
Is we like to say.
Yeah.
The first time we arrive, we do arrive a little bit later, so we don't have a chance to have a welcome dinner on that first night. But the second night, we do have a welcome dinner. Dolores, if you can tell us a little bit about the importance of that welcome dinner. It's one of my favorite moments of an entire journey because people aren't really familiar with each other. I like to say in the beginning, you're trying to get them to talk. This welcome dinner provides that opportunity to get to know one another. 3 days in, 4 days in, you're trying to get them to stop talking. So that way you can tell them what we're going to do next. It's one of my favorite parts of a journey to watch those relationships develop. But Dolores, tell us a little bit about your experiences with these welcome dinners and getting to know your fellow travelers.
Well, it's two parts. Getting to know the fellow travelers and kind of understanding where you are, and just taking a look around and just getting the sense of the smells and the pace of life, and getting because they're a little nervous because they've been in a different kind of culture, but getting to know not just who you are and traveling with people who are of the same mindset. We're all into rehabilitation and special education, disability, but also taking a look in a controlled way to test the food, which is always exceptional. It's very good. To get a taste of the flavor of the culture that you're in. So it's not like going to the Burger King because I remember the first time I went to Hong Kong and the first thing we saw was one one called Does It All. It was like Burger King and Pizza Hut. Well, that's not where we're going. you, you know, you go to where you're going to get a sense of culture in a very controlled way and get to know who you're traveling with in a way that you'll cherish and develop those friendships that last forever. They are. They're very lasting because they're important.
Yeah, and it's very deliberate that we get a chance to experience the culture first before we have our professional day, which is on the following day, because then you can actually see that culture come to life through the professional development and the professional interaction that you're having here in Delhi. So tell us a little bit, Nicola, about the professional interaction in Delhi that our travelers can expect.
Yeah, and this is my dear, dear friend Balu, who owns the company that is going to be facilitating and hosting you in India. We've been friends since 2009. And this is one of our wonderful leaders, Bobby Berkowitz, on a professional meeting in one of the hospitals in Delhi. What we have planned for this particular delegation and its focus is a visit to a local organization such as the Indian Speech Language Hearing Association, and a visit to a university. So for those of you familiar with us, you know that we try and get various professional engagements that give you an academic view on your world. It gives you a very clinical, public and private, because in India, there are two very different systems. The public and the private system, very, very different. So we want you to understand all of the various pieces. And the final itinerary as it pertains to your professional meetings is done a little closer to travel, and that's very purposeful. We want to hear from you, the participants, right? We will ask you for your bios. We will ask for what are your learning objectives? What would you like to see so that we can make a collective approach? So this is an intended visit, and it's most likely what we're going to do. But if there is a leaning more towards a different specialty, let's say, or a different objective, we can kind of, how would you say, kind of massage the meetings. So, yes, they're intentional at the moment, but they can be adapted to address the core needs of the people that are going to be joining us.
And if you look at, and probably all of you probably have and probably will, try a little Googling of what's going on in rehabilitation in India. And you'll see some things about the National Rehabilitation Council and the work that they're trying to do to make the services available in a more democratic way than, because India was not always democratic. It was under British rule until just within my lifetime. So they're trying to make some significant changes. So it'd be interesting to understand what was and what is and what their plans are for 2030, because they're all kind of available for you to look at on the internet. So this is a nice time to go because they're really in the throes of developing a more democratic approach to rehabilitation.
Yeah, and a level playing field, right? Because we know there's a lot of disparity. There is within the urban and the rural communities. And that's why, we intentionally have got the city focus, but then we have that very rural focus as we journey further north into Rajasthan.
Absolutely. And although this is a professional development journey, there is a guest program where everyone has a chance to experience India. So if one of our professional development journey attendees are actually wanting to bring a traveler with them, whether it be their wife or the typical traveling companion, while they're off doing their professional development, there's something for everyone to do. Tell us a little bit about this guest program. I think this is one of the greatest things that Nanda does because everybody is welcome. We have a chance to all have our own experiences and then come together at lunch or dinner and talk about that. So tell us a little bit about the guest program and what that does and what that means today for our travelers.
Yeah, so anytime, and we'll of course share with you the very detailed itinerary, but anytime the professional members are in their organized meetings, we have a privately guided experience for guests. So that is in addition to the national guide I mentioned. They'll stay with the professional members, and you'll have somebody else that's going to escort you on your program while the members are doing their meetings. And this is a beautiful program in Delhi. I'm going to focus a little bit on the picture because it's two of my guests earlier this actually last year. We're in 25 now, but this was last year, and we have been collaborating with a Sikh temple. It's a huge temple, Sikh temple, the Bangla Sahib, and you can go in and help to make the food. So one of the Sikh beliefs is, feeding others, taking care of others. It's the root of what they believe, and they feed thousands of people in waves every 20 minutes or so. They're feeding a new batch of people. Anybody can come. It isn't for people that are unhoused or having challenges. Anybody can come here. It's part of their cultural center. So this is an opportunity for our guests to really get involved, but also to learn about the Sikh religion, right? So you'll also have an opportunity to visit Hindu temples, and this is a day of cultural immersion in the Indian culture, religions, and how do people live? How do people interact? And how do they coexist, right? You're not asked for your Sikh card before you go into the temple, Everybody is welcome here. And this is just a beautiful day of understanding what it's like to live as an Indian person in the capital city of Delhi.
Well, what we find, Nicola, is when the guests have come back from their special guest program day,
Mm-hmm.
talk to the professionals about
Yep.
what they experienced. And
Mm-hmm.
so because we're all together,
Mm-hmm.
there's a mutual sharing of what we experience in the professional and they experience in the guest program, so that
Yep.
even though you may not have participated in, so as your example, making the food, you
Mm-hmm.
understand what that was really all about. So everyone benefits from that experience as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's so true.
Yeah, it makes the conversation during lunch and dinner a lot more lively. More to
Absolutely.
talk about. The following day, we actually leave Delhi on our way to Jaipur. It is a great journey. Tell us a little bit about our journey from Delhi to Jaipur.
Yeah, in the morning, you're doing something that my favorite thing when I travel is to visit people in their homes and visit the schools. If you dropped me at the school and left me and came back for me 7 days later, I would be perfectly happy. But this is an opportunity for you to visit a school. And why I'm passionate about this is because it's a school that was a grassroots effort started by a gentleman from the United Kingdom. He saw the disparity in education in this rural village outside of Delhi. So you're traveling, on your way to Jaipur, and you'll see how far away it is from the city center. So he started this school, and he has patrons now from all over the world, including, His Royal Highness Prince of Wales and his wife were there. So they've developed something from nothing. And what they've shown is that you can, through grassroots support, provide an opportunity for these children to thrive, right? So what you will see here is a school that is thriving. It still has its challenges and it still needs support. And it's maybe not the best school. It's not like a private school, but these children are going on to achieve incredible things and then coming back to their village to support their community members. And then in contrast to that, you'll see another school when you move on. So this is a wonderful experience. You might play cricket, or I don't know, you might be introduced to a game of cricket, but here you're going to talk to the teachers, understand what it's like for them and what challenges they face, but also the beautiful accomplishments that they've made before heading by your private motor coach, which is an experience in of itself. There are long journeys in India, but there's so much to see. The camels just walking down the road, the cows just roaming freely. Life in India is so incredibly different but amazing. And your transition journey is as important as all of the activities that we've planned. So you'll stop along the way, but ultimately you'll land in the beautiful pink city of Jaipur.
Once we arrive the following day, we have another professional program to see similarities and contrast the difference between Jaipur and Delhi. Jaipur is still a bustling city, still a bigger city,
Mm-hmm.
still very urban, but there got to be differences and similarities between the two. Tell us a little bit about our professional program here in Jaipur while we're there.
And this is a really diverse program that really leans into the kind of interdisciplinary services within the rehabilitation and special education world. It allows you to see in Jaipur how those various services are coming together. So going to the occupational therapy college, but meeting representatives of DISHA, an organization that I visited several times. Dolores, you mentioned earlier in the rural communities, it wasn't too long ago that we didn't even acknowledge children had different needs, were differently abled, or they needed special services. And this,
They were hidden sometimes, not even recognized as, yeah, hidden from the world
absolutely,
because
yeah,
of cultural beliefs.
and that's why DISHA was started. So the lady that founded this sadly passed away just a few months ago. I met her several times, and her story is very incredible. So they provide services, yes, for the children, and they're providing them, a pathway to employment, whatever their skill set might be, or whatever they can do, they're encouraged to do. And there are multiple challenges that they're dealing with. But the most important thing about DISHA is how they train the parents,
Mm.
how they educate the parents that it's okay that their child is differently abled. They're there for them, and how can they support them, not hide them away. So it's a beautiful story. The energy in there is like your heart will skip an extra couple beats. It's just such a beautiful environment. And then later in the day, you're going to go to ASHA Bawan, which I have not been to personally, but they provide services for people with mental health challenges, homelessness, addiction. So this is a day, an overwhelming day, you might think, but a really profound day. So you're really engaging with people that are going above and beyond to provide these services that are not otherwise available in this community.
Yeah. One of the things that really stood out to me when I was looking at the itinerary is for Dasha, their motto really stood out for me, which is disability does not mean inability, which
Right.
I thought was really beautiful way to put it. And so this experience is definitely going to be something that'll be a highlight of the journey in terms of seeing, the impact and our ability to kind of be a part of that as well. And while they're doing the professional program, once again, we have a guest program to kind of help, give the guests more cultural engagement. Can you just explain a little bit about what our guests will be experiencing while the professional engagement will be happening?
Yeah, again, you're really deep diving into Indian culture. So we talked about the Sikh religion, the Hindu religion, and there's also the Jain religion. So you'll go and see a Jain temple and learn about the differences and contrasting, the architecture is different. You can see here in this picture that it's a little bit different than what you might have seen in Delhi. So you're learning really about Rajasthan. What is it to be in Rajasthan? I'm really hoping that my Smiley Raj driver is appointed to you because he's from Rajasthan and he is so proud of his Rajasthani culture. And of course, being as large of a country as it is, it's so different. Like the north is so different than the south of India, and there are so many different cultural variants. Even though you're visiting four distinct different places, they're so very different from the rest of India. So there is so much to be explored here, and that's what the guests are going to be doing, is learning about what it's like to be a Rajasthani and how proud they are to call themselves Rajasthani artists. And they're very creative up in the north and super colorful.
And then once again, everybody comes together and the conversation is lively over dinner and lunch and all of the amazing experiences that they've had throughout the day. Now, this particular event in Jaipur, after the professional development, we all come back together for the following day to really experience Jaipur together and really have a
Yeah.
unique meal, which doesn't happen until the end. So I'm kind of getting ahead of
Really?
myself. But tell us, because I've had a home hosted meal and I've loved it. I had one in Morocco. I thought it was one of those amazing moments, and I don't know if Dolores, you've ever had a home hosted meal, but again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk a little bit about the day that we have planned here in Jaipur. Can you tell us a little bit about the amazing experience that's in store?
Yeah, Jaipur, the pink city, for obvious reasons. Obviously, looking at that beautiful kind of sandy-looking building, this is Taj Mahal, and you'll visit this as well as lots of other places, including the Amber Fort, the palaces. This is, think Maharajas and grandeur and beautiful buildings. You'll explore all of those as well as the unique culture. And if you want to move on to something that is my favorite thing to do is, again, connect with the people. And block printing is still very much an industry that is kind of the cottage industry. So women are employed in their local homes to print fabric. So you'll have an opportunity to observe this and try. It's very, very difficult, and the speed that they go at is incredible. But this will be an opportunity for people that love textiles, love color, to maybe buy some material and really, really feel and touch this beautiful fabric and these beautiful colors. And then to end the day, you'll have your home hosted meal. And Dolores, I know you've had several, right? Home hosted meals
Well,
around the world.
As I was just thinking about the home hosted meal that we had in China. And there are certain cultural things about meals. And I remember that they had prepared these wonderful dumplings for us. And they just kept bringing dumplings. And we want to be nice guests, so you keep eating them when they serve them to you. But when you eat one, they bring another one. And you eat that one, and you might be stuffed up to your eyeballs, but you're trying to be polite and not tell them no. But their culture is, and you have to tell them no, or they will continue to bring you dumplings. So we said, oh, why did you tell us that earlier? Because every time I think of dumplings, I think about the number of dumplings I ate in that almost.
And it's it's kind of an anchor stone of all of our people to people Nanda journeys. Having an opportunity to sit with a family or to understand how food's prepared and different cultures, like some delegates say, can I help you in the kitchen? And you will learn in certain places in the world, no, you're my guest, that's not allowed. But it allows us to uncover all of those little things that those nuances of what your culture is all about. This is the time where that unfolds. And I'm not going to spoil the story, because the families that we connect with in Jaipur, they do some wonderful things, and you'll hear some wonderful stories. And their backstory is very interesting to hear that.
It's a little more
amazing.
Informal. So by this time, we've been in the country for a week or so. So you have some sense of cultural. So you learn more by being more personal with the personal family.
Yeah, exactly. And asking those questions, and really, we don't know what we don't know until we learn it. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And when I was going on my home hosted meal, I was very hesitant. What do I expect? And it was my favorite part of the entire journey. I think it was just getting a chance to see people in their own homes. And I love that story, Dolores, about the dumplings. They must have been in the kitchen like, how many dumplings are these people going to eat? We're running out of dumplings, and you're outside like, how many dumplings are they going to serve us? I'm so full. I love that. That's such a great story. But that's what makes these journeys so amazing. The intertwining of cultures, the opportunities to meet people where they live and kind of share those stories with one another. After our stay in Jaipur, we leave for the city of Agra. On our way, we get a chance to see a very interesting and amazing village. Tell us a little bit about our stop on our way to Agra.
Yeah, this makes me super emotional, because this is where my heart is. So this is where Nanda is in India. This is Bharatapur and the Dayan Raj School. I've been here several times, and the kids are incredible. But you will see the contrast to the school that you saw in Delhi, even though it's still, a funded school. It's a nonprofit. It only exists through the generous donations of others. This school doesn't have those same opportunities, but they achieve so much. So you'll have an opportunity to really see what it's like to be in a small rural village in Rajasthan. These kids, they're just so excited to see you. You'll have an opportunity to teach English, play games with them. This is an opportunity for you to just really understand what it's like to be a kid. And, they also have some challenges with children that are differently abled. How do they integrate them into the school? You'll have an opportunity to speak to the faculty there and understand from their perspective what their challenges are. And I think between this and the home hosted meal, you'll have to come back and tell me what your favorite was, but I think I know what it might be.
Yeah, that's a part of the beauty of an Nanda journey as well. You're seeing the urban life, but you're also getting a chance to see the rural life, and kind of being able to get a chance to compare and contrast those times as well. And on our last day in Agra, we get a chance to see one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and one of the most beautiful scenes in all of India, which is the Taj Mahal. Tell us a little bit about this day and what it means to stand in front of something you've seen so many pictures of, but it's so different when you're standing in front of it on your own.
Yeah, she has to be seen to believe, to be believed. That's
Yeah.
really all I can say. There is emotion, there is a feeling. There's so much to the Taj Mahal. For those of you that are interested in architecture, the story of how it was built and the jewels and the marble and the precious stones that are here, absolutely incredible. Seeing it early in the day is just fascinating because the light looks different, throughout the day. She looks different. And yes, there'll be an opportunity to take your special pictures. And we have a wonderful guide who loves to find the best spots to get your perfect picture with the Taj. So don't be afraid to ask. And it's just a wonderful, beautiful monument to love that obviously you'll learn about the backstory and why she's there. And she continues to shine really bright, and it's a beautiful experience.
Yeah. I mean, those that have those of us that have had the privilege to see a lot of the world in the travel industry, and we stand in front of these icons that we see so many pictures of, and we try and take our own picture, but it just doesn't do it justice. You have to be there.
Mm-mm.
You have to see it to actually to sense the beauty, to actually be a part of it. Have you ever had an experience like that, Dolores, when you've been traveling, where you've seen an icon that you've always wanted to see, and it's better than you've expected it to be?
Well, it's the first time you see one of these places, you forget to take the picture because
Which is good.
you're in
Which is
such
good. That's good.
awe. I mean, like the
Mhm.
first time you see the Eiffel Tower and you're standing there and you look at it and it's bigger than you think. So you get, some people are so busy looking at the world through their little camera, but when you see it
Mhm.
live and real, how big it is and the colors
Yep.
and
Hmm.
just the sounds around it, you just might forget to take the picture. So
That's okay. That's
because
okay.
Yeah.
because it becomes
Yeah.
so internalized, the picture is
Yeah.
there.
Absolutely. Which is
Yeah. And I
important, which is
think
a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
it is a good thing. And I think that was the same for you in Peru. I know we showed a picture of you in Peru with a few of your delegates. And
yeah.
Machu Picchu, I mean, it's just one of those.
You kind of you can't believe you're looking at that. You've
Mhm.
seen it a million times, but when you actually walk through Machu Picchu and get a sense of how did they build this?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Why did they build this? And then you get the
Mhm.
story about how and
Mhm.
why it got to be there. It's not just like looking at it in a travel guidebook. You have to feel it and see how big it is and how
Mhm.
Yeah.
complex. And you say, how did they do that? They didn't have computers. They did
Mhm.
it with what? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah. The
Yeah.
the Taj will not disappoint.
Hmm.
Yeah, and before you know it, the journey is already coming to an end after our day in Agra. We do have one final evening. The last evening, we're actually flying home a little bit later at night, but the final evening before we fly home, we have what is another one of my favorite moments. We don't have a picture, but I just wanted to spend a moment talking about the farewell dinner, which is our
Mhm.
opportunity to kind of, toast to an amazing journey, exchange phone numbers, emails of all the friends that we've made along the way on our journey as well, share pictures. I've never seen somebody learn how to airdrop on an iPhone faster than at a farewell dinner, changing photos and exchanging ideas and thoughts and contact information. Dolores, tell us a little bit about that farewell dinner and how it's such an amazing moment and
Well,
great culmination.
I'm gonna tag on to the sharing of the pictures because when we went to South Africa, we did this wonderful thing called WhatsApp. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
everybody loaded their pictures on WhatsApp. So not only did I get my pictures, but I got pictures from 22 other people. So
Mhm.
I have lots and lots of pictures. It was really, really easy. But
Really great.
the farewell dinner, the technology is amazing. The farewell dinner is just a time to reflect back, to think, how could we have had so many experiences in such a short period of time that will be with you for a lifetime, will change the way you look at the world around you. And it's a sad time, but it's a joyous time. It's kind of times when you say, oh, you take a deep breath and you think back and then you look ahead. So it becomes one of those, it's almost surreal to think about it feels so different from the welcome dinner.
Yeah.
Because now you're looking back at what you've experienced and you think about what's the next step? How am I going to use this? How is this going to change my world, the work that I live in? When I go back to work on Monday or Tuesday, whenever it is, how is my life going to be different? How am I going to talk to parents differently? How am I going to look at people that I walk down the street and see differently? How am I going to listen to the news differently? All of it comes and on the trip home, that's again another time when it might be a long flight, but it's a time to reflect on all that happened and how it's going to impact on your life for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
So true.
Yeah. Yeah, and I couldn't have said it better myself. I was almost hesitant to ask about the farewell dinner because we are running short on time, but I'm glad I did because the way that you described it is better than I've ever heard it described. How is this going to change me as you sit there at dinner? I love that. So secure your spot. To talk a little bit about the pricing and the opportunity here. Again, traveling October 5th to the 13th on this India interdisciplinary rehabilitation and special education journey. 10 days, 7 nights. Land and air out of New York City is $5,499. Deposit due is $500 per person. That holds your spot. This space is limited to 20 participants. I think we had how many people sign up for this webinar tonight, Nicola?
We have 47. You had
47.
Such a beautiful response. Yeah.
Yeah. So we only have spots for 20 of you. So that's the one thing that we always try and let you know. The $500 holds your spot. That is fully refundable until May 8th, minus the $95 service fee. So we always say to people, especially when there's this much interest, it's better to hold your spot and not need it than to need that spot. And unfortunately, us tell you have to be on a wait list. So if you are interested, we do highly encourage you to sign up. In addition to the other opportunities, again, we're flying out of New York City, but there is opportunities to work with Nanda in many ways to kind of customize that airfare where you're flying out of. Tell us a little bit about those add-ons and enhancements, Nicola, that Nanda Journeys offers.
Yeah, we offer you the opportunity to book a land-only or an air-inclusive package. We present you with the air-inclusive price because we don't want to be, okay, look at this low price, and then you have to add this and add this. The $54.99 is the price you pay out of New York, including your airfare and everything we shared with you. If you wanted to upgrade your flights, you have a preferred airline, or you wanted to arrive early, we can do all of that. So you do not have to fly out of New York. It's just a good meeting spot for a start for a lot of people, but we have delegates coming from all over the United States. So it may be if you're on the West Coast, there's a nonstop from San Francisco or Los Angeles. That might be a better route for you. So we will work with you to make that happen. If you wanted to go in early or stay late, explore more, or on the front end, adjust to the time before you started the actual delegation, we can do all of that with you as well. And for anybody who wants to stay on a little longer or arrive earlier, India's our heart destination. We've got lots more to show you if indeed you wanted or had enough time to see anything else. So very much yes, an all-inclusive proposition we've shared with you, but we want it to be your journey. So just let us know what that looks like for you. And then our insurance premiums, we work with a wonderful company called Travic. I've had a personal relationship with my contact there for over 15 years, and they have a multitude of options for you to choose from. We love them for their pricing, their customer service, and basically just all-round amazing options that we highly recommend you take. It is an option, and we will guide you in that as well.
Yeah. So in terms of I don't see any questions. I don't know if I don't have access to the questions, Nicola, just because
Let
I'm not
me
the host, but I know you're
double-check.
hosting. So I don't
There's
see any
no
questions or concerns.
questions or anything in the chat, but we can certainly wait around for a few minutes to see if anybody does indeed have any questions. Go ahead and type those or put them in the chat or give us a reaction to how everything was.
Yeah, I had a few of my own, if you don't mind me asking a few. In regards to weather, as I saw people out there, it seemed like there were they were in, t-shirts and, jackets, but also wrapped around their waist. How should travelers pack on for a journey like this, seeing as how we'll be in October? What's the weather going to be like?
Yeah, it's my favorite month to visit India, honestly, because the monsoon season is over, and you're going to have temperatures in the mid to high 70s into early 80s if we're having a warm spell. Very, very unlikely you're going to see any rain. So you should see nice clear skies because you don't have the heat issue with some of the smog issues. You may have a little bit of smog in Delhi, but every time I've visited in the fall, those pictures, like I said tonight, they were our delegation pictures. So that's how they've experienced India. And we typically travel in the fall. Nighttime temperatures, you're probably going to be in the mid 60s, so maybe high 50s some nights, because we're in early October, so probably 60s in the nighttime, so not a big change, and just beautiful weather to experience India.
So packing layers, cold jacket you can take on and off. One
Yep.
other question that I had, and then I have one question for. Oh, there's a couple of questions in the Q&A, but one question I had, Nicola, was in regards to the food.
Hmm.
There are people that might have food restrictions, especially when it comes to home hosted meals. They might have a few concerns. How is that handled on the journey in regards to food if someone needs a special meal or something of that nature?
Yeah, no, really good question. So all meals are accommodated. We would ask you before you travel if you have any special dietary requirements or preferences, and they can be accommodated. So don't have any worries about those.
Okay.
So we want to introduce you to the Indian food, which is some of my favorite, and small little tidbit of information, but Indian food in England is more popular than fish and chips now, and I can attest to that, coming from England myself. But
I remember when I think it was to Peru, we had one of our guests
mhm,
had a particular need for special foods, and
mhm.
that was accommodated without any difficulty at all. He was very
Yeah,
happy.
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
We take that very seriously and engage in a conversation with everybody before they travel about what that means.
Awesome. We have a question from Deborah in regards to cost for single occupancy. I don't know what it might have been on that slide. I hadn't mentioned it. I'll go back a couple.
Yeah, it's
Um,
$1,299 is the single supplement if people wanted their own room. And I do see as well a question about can you join it with another delegate? So yes, we do our best to assign you a roommate. If you want to sign up for a shared room, but you don't have a travel companion, you absolutely can sign up in a shared room. We just can't guarantee that's going to happen. So if it's 60 days prior to travel, we haven't found you a roommate, then the single occupancy would become
Someone
uh,
is also asking the price inclusive for airlines, hotels, and tours.
yes, it is.
Yeah. Airfare out
Mhm.
of New York City. So if you are flying out of another gateway, there might be a supplement for your flying out of your gateway. But obviously, as Nicola had mentioned, we can definitely quote that. All right. So we're at 7:59, right
Can
on
I
time.
just
Look at that.
add one more
Yeah.
thing? Because this is a professional trip, in the past, people have been able to take at least part of the trip as a tax deduction. And
Mhm.
we were able to get ASHA continuing education units for the professional components of this trip in the past.
Mhm.
I think we got at least 2.0 CEUs for the trip to South
Mhm.
Africa. So it becomes beneficial, financially and professionally beneficial for that reason as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, Dolores, because we hadn't brought that up before. So absolutely, that idea of earning credits is a big part of it as well.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so I did put that slide up again for you, Deborah, so that way you could kind of take a look at that. Nicola, if you want to talk about the same price for companions, somebody's asking.
Mhm. Yes, it is. As we shared, when the professional members are out in their professional meetings, we have a full itinerary that is completely different for guests. So yes, it's the same price for companions.
Fantastic. And to be cognizant of everyone's time, it is now 8 o'clock. So I'm going to leave with one question that I wanted to ask for Dolores, and then we'll leave you the final word. What are you most looking forward to about this journey, Dolores?
The thing that I get most out of these journeys is interacting with people of like mind and getting perspectives from different parts of the world. So when I've traveled by other trips, I found that we're all in the same profession, and we're all concerned about people with disabilities and have special needs, but we all look at it, even our own backgrounds are different. So we learn from each other, and yet we learn from where we're going, and we come back and we're changed forever. So I'm really looking forward to the interdisciplinary nature of this particular trip, the occupational physical therapists, the Rehabilitation Council of India, because of the work that they're doing to try to become a little more democratic in their ability to provide services in a country that's has not been democratic historically. So I mean, that's, I guess I'm trying to say that politely. So it's nice to that where they're going and what their plans are to go in the future, so that we can understand. I mean, I think we all know people who've come to India to this country who are working professionally, but what are they left behind, and are they? What is that country really all about? You know what you read in the paper, you know what you see on television, but until you've been there, you haven't been there.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I can see why
So
people love
true.
traveling with you. I love the way you talk about impact and the way the way travel impacts your life, Dolores. Now I know why people love traveling with you. Nicola, final word with you, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, I hope, like you leave a piece of your heart in India. I love to go back and reconnect with the little piece that I left out there. If you have any questions, we're here to answer those questions. And please reach out. Thank you for being here tonight. If you've traveled with us before, welcome back. If you're considering traveling with us, we're here for you. And thank you so much for being here tonight with us.
And if anybody
Yes,
wants
thank
to
you all.
contact directly, they can. I'll be happy to interact with them personally as well.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Dolores.
We can share your contact information in our follow-up email from here as well. So thank you, Dolores. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening, for taking some time out of your day to learn about our amazing journey this upcoming October. If you have any more questions, you can see the contact information there on the screen. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. Our team is here to help you experience India in the best way possible. Thank you again for joining us this evening. We look forward to seeing you on the next Nanda presentation, but more importantly, we look forward to seeing you in India later this year. Thank you all so much, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks so much.
Bye.